Vivid verses.
The coffee at Greystone Tech's headquarters tasted like burnt ambition, but Nathan Cross had learned to appreciate it. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive lounge, watching Austin's skyline blur in the late afternoon heat, while his wife Vanessa worked the room behind him. Her voice carried that particular pitch of professional charm she'd perfected over the years, bright enough to seem warm, calculated enough to command respect. "Nathan, come meet Richard Holbrook from our Seattle office," Vanessa called, her hand already gesturing him over with the confidence of someone who expected immediate compliance. He turned, offering the practiced smile he developed for these functions. Holbrook was standard issue. 50s, expensive suit straining slightly at the middle, handshake firm enough to signal dominance without crossing into aggression. "Your wife tells me you're in consulting," Holbrook said, the polite disinterest already forming in his eyes. Past tense would be more accurate, Nathan thought, but simply nodded. "Process optimization, primarily for mid-size manufacturing operations." "Fascinating," Holbrook replied, in a tone that suggested the opposite. His attention had already shifted back to Vanessa. "I wanted to discuss the Portland expansion before the board meeting next week." Nathan excused himself smoothly, drifting toward the hors d'oeuvres table. This was the third such event this month, each one an exercise in watching his wife ascend while he orbited at an acceptable distance, close enough to demonstrate support, far enough not to interfere with her trajectory. It hadn't always been this way. 3 years ago, they'd been in Charlotte, and Nathan's firm, Cross Solutions, had been gaining real momentum. He'd secured contracts with 2 regional manufacturing plants, had 3 more in the pipeline, and was interviewing for his first full-time hire. Then Vanessa had come home with champagne and news, Senior Director of Strategic Operations, but the position was in Denver. "It's the break I've been waiting for," she'd said, her eyes bright with possibility. "I know the timing isn't perfect with your business, but we've always said we'd support each other's careers." "We have," he'd thought, watching her excitement, though the scoreboard's getting lopsided. But he'd smiled and raised his glass, because that's what partners did. He'd spent the next 2 months transitioning his clients to competitors, dissolved the LLC, and packed up their lives for Colorado. Denver had lasted 18 months before the next opportunity emerged. This time, Austin, this time VP of Operations. Another move, another restart. His attempts to rebuild Cross Solutions in Denver had barely gotten off the ground before they were packing again. Deep thoughts. Nathan turned to find Vanessa beside him, 2 glasses of wine in her hands. She offered him one, her expression softening from professional to something more genuine. "Just observing," he said. "Holbrook's an ass, but he controls the Seattle budget." She sipped her wine. "I appreciate you being here. I know these aren't your favorite." "They're fine." She studied him for a moment, and he could see her trying to read what she couldn't quite access anymore. There had been a time when she could parse his silences, but somewhere in the migrations and the career pivots, that intimacy had gotten packed away in a box that never quite made it to the new house. "The Hendersons are hosting a dinner party next Saturday," she said. "Smaller group. You might actually enjoy it." Smaller group of your colleagues, he thought, but nodded. "Sure." The Saturday dinner was at a renovated Craftsman in Barton Hills, the kind of place that whispered old money despite being purchased last year. Martin Henderson opened the door with the enthusiasm of a man who'd had a head start on the evening's wine. "Vanessa and Nathan, good to see you." The handshake was warm, genuine even. Henderson ran his own company, some kind of boutique financial services firm, which perhaps explained why he didn't treat Nathan like Vanessa's accessory. Inside, 8 people clustered in a living room that managed to be both spacious and intimate. Nathan recognized most of them from previous events, Greystone executives and their partners, forming the comfortable ecosystem of corporate success. Except for one couple. Nathan, "This is Owen and Celeste Hammond," Henderson said, guiding him toward a pair he didn't recognize. Owen was tall, angular, with the kind of focused intensity that suggested engineering or architecture. Celeste had an easy confidence, her handshake firm. "Owen runs Cipher Wave Security," Henderson explained. "And Celeste just made partner at Morrison & Chong. Corporate law," Celeste clarified, her smile wry. "Someone has to keep Owen's contracts legally sound." They drifted into conversation naturally, and Nathan found himself genuinely engaged for the first time in months at one of these events. Owen's company handled cybersecurity for mid-sized businesses, a sector Nathan knew well from his consulting days. "The problem is scalability," Owen was saying. "We can handle the technical side, but the operational frameworks for most of these companies are chaos. Half the time, the security breach is just a symptom of deeper structural issues." "Process optimization," Nathan said. "I used to consult in exactly that space. You'd be surprised how many inefficiencies create security vulnerabilities." Owen's eyes sharpened with interest. "Really? What kind of operations?" They talked shop for 20 minutes, the conversation flowing with the ease of shared expertise. Nathan felt something in his chest uncoil, a professional muscle he'd let atrophy, stretching back to life. "You should grab coffee sometime," Owen said. "I've got a couple of clients who could probably use someone with your background." Across the room, Nathan caught Vanessa watching them, her expression unreadable. Dinner was excellent. Henderson's wife Claire had a gift for creating atmosphere, but Nathan found himself more interested in the dynamics than the duck confit. He watched Owen and Celeste move through the evening like a synchronized team, supporting each other's conversations, building on each other's points, creating space for both to shine. This is what balance looks like, he thought. Two careers in actual equilibrium. On the drive home, Vanessa was quiet. She waited until they were nearly back to their townhouse before speaking. "You seem to hit it off with Owen Hammond. He's sharp. Interesting company. She pulled into their driveway. "Kill the engine. Just be careful." Nathan turned to look at her. "Careful of what?" "Getting too involved with people in my professional circle. It can create complications." "Your professional circle, not our social network, or even my network." The possessive was telling. "He suggested coffee," Nathan said evenly. "Two guys talking about process management doesn't threaten your career, Vanessa." "I didn't say it did. I'm just asking you to be mindful." He studied her profile in the dim light of the garage. She was already moving on, mentally filing the conversation away as she reached for her phone to check emails. "She's afraid," he realized. "Not of what I might do, but of what I might become. A variable she can't control." That night, lying in bed while Vanessa slept beside him, Nathan stared at the ceiling and did what he did best. Analyze the data. 3 years of marriage. 7 years together total. 5 cities in 4 years. His business dissolved twice, hers ascending steadily. Every major decision bent toward her trajectory. Her colleagues, her events, her network, her career architecture. And him, the supporting structure, valuable only insofar as he didn't interfere with the primary design. The mathematics were undeniable. He met Owen for coffee on Wednesday at a place called Beansmith's, tucked into a converted gas station in East Austin. Owen arrived with a laptop and an energy that suggested he'd been looking forward to this. "Okay, so I've been thinking about what you said at dinner," Owen started, not bothering with small talk. "About operational frameworks. I've got a client in Houston manufacturing medical devices, and they're a perfect storm of inefficiency. Great product, catastrophic processes." Nathan leaned in, felt that old familiar click of engagement. "Tell me about their workflow." They spent 2 hours dissecting the client's operations, Nathan sketching process maps on napkins, identifying bottlenecks and optimization points with the precision that had made Cross Solutions promising before he'd shelved it. "This is exactly what they need," Owen said, studying the napkins like they were blueprints. "Would you be interested in taking them on as a client? I can make the introduction." Nathan paused, coffee cup halfway to his lips. The answer should have been immediate. Yes, obviously yes, but he felt Vanessa's caution echoing in his head. "Be careful. Complications." Then he thought of the Hammonds at dinner, two successful people who'd figured out how to occupy the same space without one collapsing into the other's orbit. "Yes," he said. "I'm interested." Owen grinned. "Fantastic. I'll set up a call. Fair warning. My commission for this referral is that you help me fix Cypherwave's operational mess too." "Deal." Walking to his car, Nathan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. The straightforward satisfaction of professional momentum. Not reflected glory, not vicarious achievement. His own. He didn't tell Vanessa about the client that night. Or the next. It wasn't deception exactly, more like strategic timing. He wanted to see if it would actually materialize before bringing it up. The Houston company, MedTech Innovations, needed him on site for 3 days. He booked the trip for the following week, mentioning it casually to Vanessa over dinner. "Houston," she looked up from her tablet. "What's in Houston?" "Consulting project. Owen Hammond connected me with a client." Her fork paused midway to her mouth. "A consulting project. You're restarting Cross Solutions." "Just taking on a client. Testing the waters." "Nathan." She set down her fork with deliberate care. "We talked about this. The timing isn't right for you to rebuild a business. My career is at a critical phase. Your career is always at a critical phase." The words came out more sharply than he'd intended, but he didn't retract them. Vanessa's expression shifted through surprise to something harder. "That's not fair, isn't it? Charlotte was critical. Denver was critical. Austin is critical. At what point does your career stabilize enough for mine to exist? I never asked you to give up your business. You just asked me to move 5 times in 4 years, which accomplished the same thing." They stared at each other across the dinner table, the air between them charged with things that had been accumulating in silence. "This is about the Hammond couple, isn't it?" Vanessa said finally. "You see them balancing both careers, and you think it's that simple. I think it's possible, which is different from what we have now. What we have now is me building something significant while you—" She stopped, but the rest of the sentence hung in the air anyway. "While you do what? Drift? Atrophy? Serve as arm candy at your corporate events?" "I'm taking the client," Nathan said quietly. "It's 3 days. I'll be back Friday." Vanessa's jaw tightened. "Fine, but don't expect me to rearrange my schedule if this creates complications." "As if you ever have," he thought, but kept his expression neutral. "Understood." Houston was exactly what he needed. MedTech Innovations was a mess. Brilliant engineers with zero operational sense, bleeding efficiency from 1,000 small cuts. Nathan spent 3 days embedded in their facility, mapping workflows, identifying redundancies, drafting new protocols. It was exhilarating. On the 3rd day, the CEO, a woman named Patricia Chun who'd founded the company in her garage 8 years ago, sat with him to review his recommendations. "This is extraordinary," she said, paging through his report. "You've identified things we've been struggling with for years. How quickly can you implement these changes? I can have phase 1 operational in 6 weeks, full implementation in 3 months. Do it. Whatever your rate is, it's worth it." Flying back to Austin, Nathan felt something close to joy. Not the muted satisfaction of being supportive, but the sharp, clean pleasure of being valuable for his own skills. Vanessa was working late when he got home, which gave him time to set up a proper workspace in the spare bedroom. He'd need a dedicated area if he was going to do this right. Rebuild Cross Solutions as something real, not just a side project to be shelved when the next promotion required another move. She came home after 10, finding him at the desk, assembling a project timeline. How was Houston? Her tone was neutral, carefully so, successful. They want me to implement the full optimization program. That's good. She lingered in the doorway. How long will that take? 3 months of active implementation, then maintenance support. 3 months. Something flickered across her face. Nathan, I need to tell you something. I'm being considered for SVP. It would mean another move. He said it flatly, already knowing. Possibly. Nothing's decided yet, but I wanted you to know it's on the table. He turned in his chair to face her fully. Where? Chicago. But it's not certain. When would you know? 4 to 6 months. Nathan did the math instantly. Just enough time for him to get cross-solutions reestablished, to build real momentum before being asked to dismantle it again. I'm not moving, he said. Vanessa's expression froze. What? I'm not moving. Not to Chicago. Not anywhere. I'm rebuilding my business here. You can't be serious. This is SVP, Nathan. This is what I've been working toward. And I'm happy for you. But I'm not sacrificing my career again for yours. Her face flushed. Sacrificing? I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You asked me to move. 5 times. You asked me to be available for your events, your networking, your schedule. You asked me to put your career first, and I did. For years. Now I'm asking for the same consideration, and you're acting like it's unreasonable. It's not the same thing. You're right. It's not. Because when you asked, I said yes. The silence stretched between them, taut and dangerous. If you do this, Vanessa said slowly, if you prioritize this business over my career, you're sabotaging everything I've built. Do you understand that? You're sabotaging me. Nathan felt something cold and clear settle in his chest. This was the moment, the inflection point, where the pattern either repeated or broke. Let me make sure I understand, he said, his voice calm. Me having a career is sabotage. Me rebuilding what I dissolved for you twice is sabotage. But you asking me to move, again, for your advancement, that's just, what? Support. It's different. Ow. Because my career is at a level where these opportunities don't come around twice. You can consult from anywhere. Except I can't. Building a business requires stability, relationships, presence. All the things I've given up to be your support system. Vanessa's hands clenched. Your support system? Do you want a list of everything I've done for you? Sure, Nathan said evenly. I'll trade you. You list what you've sacrificed for me. I'll list what I've sacrificed for you. Let's see whose list is longer. She stared at him, and he could see her trying to formulate the argument, reaching for examples that kept slipping away. I work 60-hour weeks to provide financial stability, which I never asked for, and which benefits your career more than our life together. Next, I've included you in my professional network as an accessory, a prop to demonstrate stability. Not as an equal. Her face was flushed now, anger and something else, maybe recognition, fighting for dominance. This isn't fair. You're right. It hasn't been. So here's my list. I moved from Charlotte, killing a business with real momentum. I moved from Denver, killing a restart before it began. I've attended approximately 100 corporate events where I'm introduced as Vanessa's husband, not Nathan Cross, not a professional in my own right. I've reorganized my schedule around your travel, your meetings, your emergencies. I put your career first for 3 years straight. He stood, and she actually took a step back. Now I'm putting mine first. You can support that the way I supported you, or you can keep calling it sabotage. But I'm not moving to Chicago. You're being selfish. Good. It's about time. She left the room, and he heard the bedroom door close with controlled force. Not a slam. Vanessa didn't slam doors, but definite punctuation. Nathan sat back down at the desk, pulled up his project files, and got back to work. His hands were steady. His mind was clear. For the first time in years, he felt like himself. The next 3 months unfolded with surgical precision. Nathan implemented the MedTech Innovations Optimization Program ahead of schedule. The results so dramatic that Patricia referred him to 2 other medical device manufacturers. Owen Hammond became not just a client, but a genuine friend. Their companies developing a symbiotic relationship. CipherWave providing security, Cross Solutions handling operational infrastructure. Nathan attended one more of Vanessa's corporate events, a dinner party in Westlake Hills. He was polite, professional, and completely disengaged. When someone asked what he did, he answered with specifics: process optimization, manufacturing efficiency, current client roster. Not consulting in the vague, diminishing way he'd learned to deflect, but real information about real work. Vanessa noticed. He could feel her tracking him across the room, the way she used to track competitors in meetings, assessing threat level, calculating response. On the drive home, she was silent until they hit the highway. "You were different tonight." "Was I?" "You know you were. Talking about your business like." She trailed off. "Like it matters?" Her hands tightened on the wheel. "You're pulling away from me." It wasn't a question, but Nathan answered anyway. "Yes." "Why?" He could have softened it, could have cushioned the truth in qualifications and careful language. Instead, he gave her the clean data. "Because supporting you required me to disappear. And I'm choosing not to disappear anymore." "That's not. I never asked you to disappear. You asked me to be smaller, to take up less space, to orbit your career at a comfortable distance." Maybe you didn't use those words, but that's what it amounted to. They pulled into the garage, and Vanessa killed the engine but didn't move to get out. "I got the SVP offer," she said quietly. "Official. Chicago, 6-figure bump, full executive package." "Congratulations." "I'm taking it." Nathan nodded. "You should. It's a great opportunity. You're really not coming?" "No." She turned to face him, and in the dim light, he could see genuine confusion in her expression. "What happens to us?" "I don't know. What do you want to happen?" "I want you to understand how important this is." "I do understand. It's critical to your career. But my business is critical to mine, and it requires me to stay in Austin." "So that's it? Your business is more important than our marriage." Nathan felt the familiar shape of the guilt trip forming, the architecture of an argument designed to make him responsible for her choices. "No," he said calmly. "My business is equally important to your career. That's the part you're struggling with." He got out of the car, leaving her sitting in the driver's seat. She took the Chicago position. The announcement came via email to her team, copied to Nathan as a courtesy. Vanessa Cross, Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations, effective in 6 weeks. They existed in the same house like professional roommates, polite and distant. Vanessa worked late most nights, preparing for the transition. Nathan ran Cross Solutions from the spare bedroom, his client roster growing steadily. One evening, 3 weeks before her move date, she found him reviewing contracts at the kitchen table. "We need to talk." He looked up, saw the determination in her stance. "Here it comes," he thought. The final negotiation. "Okay." She sat across from him, a folder in her hands. "I've been thinking about logistics. The Chicago position is too good to pass up, but I don't want to end our marriage over geography. What are you proposing? Long distance for 6 months while you wind down your current clients. Then you move to Chicago, restart Cross Solutions there. I'll support you however I can. Introductions, network access, everything." Nathan set down his pen, studied her carefully. She believed this was reasonable. He could see that. A compromise. Both careers intact, just sequenced. Hers first, his eventually. "No," he said. "Nathan, I have 8 active clients, and a pipeline of 12 more. I have partnerships with 3 other firms. I have momentum, real momentum, for the first time in years. And you're asking me to wind all of that down, uproot again, and start over in a new city where I have no network, no presence, no foundation. I said I'd help. The way I helped you? By dissolving my business entirely and starting from scratch? That kind of help. Her jaw tightened. This is different. It's exactly the same, except now you're the one asking, and I'm the one saying no. So your business is more important than us. My business is exactly as important as yours. That's the equation you can't accept. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against tile. Fine. Then I guess we're done. Nathan felt the weight of it, the finality, but also something else. Relief. I guess we are. You're really going to throw away 7 years over this? Vanessa. He kept his voice gentle, which somehow made it worse. You're the one leaving. You're the one who can't imagine a scenario where your career doesn't take absolute priority. I'm just refusing to disappear again. I never asked you to disappear. Yes, he said quietly. You did. You just didn't realize that's what you were asking. She left the room, and this time the door did slam. The divorce was professional, almost cordial. They divided assets with the efficiency of executives splitting a portfolio. No kids, no shared property beyond the townhouse, which they sold quickly in Austin's hot market. Vanessa moved to Chicago 6 weeks later. Nathan helped her pack, carried boxes to the moving truck, even drove her to the airport. At departures, she turned to him with something like regret in her eyes. I really thought we could make it work. We did make it work, Nathan said. For your career, just not for mine. She flinched, started to respond, then just nodded and walked toward security. Nathan drove home to the townhouse, his now for 2 more weeks, and felt the absence settle around him. Not grief exactly, more like the clearing of space, the way a room feels after you finally remove furniture that never quite fit. He got back to work. Cross Solutions exploded over the next 18 months. The medtech innovation success became a case study, leading to contracts with 6 more manufacturers across Texas and the Southwest. Owen Hammond's partnership evolved into something bigger. They co-developed an integrated security and operations package that became their signature offering. Nathan hired his first employee, then his third, then his 8th. Moved from a spare bedroom to a real office in downtown Austin. Started turning down clients because he couldn't scale fast enough. He went to dinner parties where people asked about his business first, his relationship status second. He dated casually, a lawyer named Michelle, a professor named Sandra, but nothing serious. He was too busy building something real. 22 months after Vanessa left for Chicago, she called. He almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Evening on a Thursday, but something made him pick up. Nathan? It's me. Her voice was exactly the same, that particular blend of confidence and calculation. But there was something underneath it now, something tired. Vanessa. Hi. Is this a bad time? He was reviewing acquisition proposals. A competitor had approached about buying Cross Solutions, the offer substantial enough to take seriously. About a few minutes. What's up? I'm in Austin. For a conference. I was hoping we could get coffee. Talk. Here we go, he thought. Out loud, sure. When? They met the next morning at Beansmith's, the same place he'd had that first coffee with Owen. Vanessa was already there when he arrived, and he took a moment before going in to observe her through the window. She looked successful. The clothes, the posture, the way she commanded space, even sitting alone. But there was something in her expression when she thought no one was watching, a kind of hollowness. Inside, they exchanged the awkward pleasantries of exes who parted civilly. Work is good. Austin looks different. You look well. I heard about Cross Solutions, she said finally. Owen Hammond mentioned it at an industry mixer. He said you're one of the top operational consultants in the Southwest now. Owen's generous, but we're doing well. Better than well, from what I hear. She traced the rim of her coffee cup. I'm happy for you. Really. Thank you. Silence stretched between them, and Nathan waited. He'd learned patience these last 2 years, learned to let silences breathe until they revealed their purpose. I made a mistake, Vanessa said quietly. Leaving, pushing you away. I thought the SVP position was the answer, but it's just more of the same. Different office, same treadmill. Nathan said nothing. I miss you. I miss us. Or what we could have been if I'd been less. She searched for the word, selfish. You weren't selfish, Nathan said, meaning it. You were focused, single-minded. Those are good traits for career advancement, just not for partnership. We could try again. I could support your business this time, really support it. I have contacts across 3 industries now. I could. Vanessa. He said it gently, but firmly. No. She looked up, surprise in her eyes. You haven't even heard my proposal. I don't need to, because any proposal you make still has the same fundamental problem. You see support as transactional. You'll help my business because it might benefit yours. You'll make space for my career because you think you should, not because you genuinely believe it's as valuable as yours. That's not. It is. And I'm not interested in that dynamic anymore. Her face was a complicated mixture of hurt and anger and something else, recognition maybe, the awareness that he'd changed, evolved past the version of himself who would have said yes to anything she asked. So that's it. You just moved on. Yes. To someone else? To myself. To a life that doesn't require me to be smaller than I am. She stood, fumbling for her purse with hands that weren't quite steady. I'm sorry I wasted your time. You didn't. This was good closure. At the door, she turned back. For what it's worth, I really did love you. I know, Nathan said. But you loved your career more. And that's okay. I just wasn't willing to keep coming in second. She left, and he finished his coffee slowly, watching Austin wake up outside the window. His phone buzzed. Michelle, asking about dinner Saturday. He replied yes, then pulled up the acquisition proposal one more time. The offer was generous, but he wasn't ready to sell. Cross Solutions was his, built from nothing on his own terms, and it was still growing. Owen called that afternoon. Heard through the grapevine your ex was in town. Coffee this morning. And nothing. She wanted to try again. I declined. Good for you, man. You built something real here. Don't let anyone compromise that. Nathan looked around his office. Real space, real employees, real impact. Don't plan to. That evening, he took Michelle to a new restaurant in the warehouse district, the kind of place that hadn't existed 2 years ago. Over dinner, she told him about a case she'd won, the satisfaction bright in her eyes. He told her about the acquisition offer, his decision to decline. You're sure? She asked. That's a lot of money. I'm sure. I didn't build this to sell it. I built it to prove I could. She reached across the table, squeezed his hand. To yourself or to her? He considered the question honestly. Started as her. Became myself. Walking home later, Austin's spring air warm and promising. Nathan felt the completeness of it. Not perfect, not without its challenges, but fundamentally sound. He'd rebuilt himself from the supporting structure into the architect, from the accessory into the main event. His phone buzzed. Owen, forwarding a lead from Seattle, possibly their biggest contract yet. Nathan smiled, typed back a response, and kept walking. The night was young, the business was thriving, and he was exactly where he chose to be.
Thanks for listening.